Battle of Wilson's Creek took place near Springfield, Missouri in August of 1861. Union Brigadier General Nathaniel Lyon was on one side, with Confederate troops from Arkansas under the command of Brigadier General Ben McCulloch approaching. McCulloch's men had reinforced Missouri State Guard forces under Major General Sterling Price. So far, however, Lyon had no part in the plan Fremont was spending long hours evolving. In June, he had led his troops southwest, intending to secure that section of the state and then move into Arkansas, with Little Rock as his goal. By early August, he was beyond Springfield, near the border, but breakdowns along his line of supply had made his army ragged, ill-shod, low on ammunition, and disheartened. Fremont, intent on his master plan, could send no reinforcements. What was worse, the Confederates encamped at Lyon's front, around Cowskin Prairie, were growing stronger every day. He estimated their strength at 20,000. It was impractical to advance. On August 4th, he reported, "I am under the painful necessity of retreating, and can, at most, only hope to make my retreat good. I am in too great haste to explain more fully." On the 6th, he fell back to a position around Springfield, and the Confederates came on after him, pausing a few miles south before making the final pounce. They, the Confederates, were not as formidable as Lyon thought, and for several reasons. Though they numbered about 12,000, twice the size of the Union force, for the most part, they were miserably equipped and poorly organized, under commanders who were divided in their counsels and ambitions. The majority were Missouri militia led by Sterling Price, a 52-year-old Virginia-born ex-governor who thought so little of West Pointers that he inserted a notice in the papers indignantly quashing a rumor that he had received a formal military education. His men had neither uniforms nor tents. Many had no arms at all, while others had only shotguns or 1812-style flintlocks, and, as substitutes for artillery projectiles, had laid in a stock of smooth stones, rusty chains, and iron rods to be shot from their 8 antiquated cannon. The remainder, under Ben McCulloch of Tennessee, 40 years old, and a former Texas Ranger, were somewhat better equipped, being regular Confederate troops. As soon as Lyon began his retreat, McCulloch led the combined forces after him. They went into camps along Wilson's Creek, 10 miles short of Springfield, where the Confederates had halted. McCulloch drew up plans for attack. The movement began on August 9th, but was called off because of threatening rain. The troops returned to camp and settled down to sleep, not bothering to put out pickets. At dawn, the storm of Lyon's attack exploded in their rear. The red-haired Federal was also a veteran of Mexico, where he had won promotion for valor, capturing 3 guns at Cerro Gordo. In spirit of those days, instead of waiting to receive attack or risking being struck while in motion, he had decided to deliver a blow that would permit him to retreat unmolested. The fact that he was outnumbered 2-1, 3-1 as he thought, did not discourage this, but rather, in Lyon's eyes, at any rate, demanded it. He felt that his army would do a better job of delivering an attack than of standing to receive one. With his men somewhat hardened by a day's rest and the arrival of shoes from the railroad at Rolla, he distributed the shoes on the afternoon of the 9th and set out south for Springfield. Soon after midnight, the Confederates, having averted a meeting engagement by turning back in the face of lowering weather, he had his troops within striking distance of the rebels' camp on Wilson's Creek. He had not minded the rain, and he had counted the darkness a positive advantage. Under its cover, he disposed his army for one of those complicated envelopments so popular in the early days of the war, when the generals and the soldiers they commanded were at least capable of executing them. One column, under Colonel Franz Sigel, 2 regiments of infantry, 2 troops of cavalry, and a 6-gun battery of artillery, was sent on a wide swing to hit the enemy rear, while Lyon struck in front with the main body, southward down the western bank, where most of the rebels lay snug in their blankets. He detached 1 equipment of regulars, 1st Infantry, U.S. Army, about as regular as troops could be, sending them beyond the creek to handle whatever Confederates have pitched their camps on that side. Sigel set out. Lyon waited in the darkness. Nothing stirred in the rebel camp. As dawn paled the rising ground beyond the creek, the limbs of trees becoming black against the sky, there was a sudden splatter of musketry. The skirmishers had opened fire. Then the roar and flash of guns like summer lightning on the far horizon. Sigel had come up from the south and was in action. On time and in place, Leone ordered the main body forward, east and west of the creek, closing the upper jaw of his tactical vise. Everything was moiling confusion in the camps along the creek bed, guns booming north and south as men came out of their blankets in various stages of undress, tousled hair, half asleep, and badly frightened. Under the stress of that first panic they fled. Some returned, rather shamefaced. Others ran and kept on running, right out of the war. Yet those who stood were hardcore men from Arkansas and Louisiana, Texas and Missouri, wanting only to be told what to do. McCulloch and his aides soon established a line of resistance, and these men fell in eagerly. Price had yielded in command, but he was there too, his white hair streaming in the wind as he rode up and down the line and rallied his Missourians, shouting encouragement. Under such leadership, the Southerners enabled in time to meet the attack from both directions. The battle that followed set a pattern for all such encounters in the West. Few of the romantic preconceptions as to brilliant maneuver and individual gallantry were realized. Fighting at close quarters because of the short-range Confederate flintlocks and muzzle-loading fowling pieces, a regiment could walk up to the firing line, deliver a volley, then reload and deliver another, continuing this until it dissolved and was replaced by another regiment, which repeated the process, melting away in the heat of that furnace and being in turn replaced. No fighting anywhere ever required greater courage, yet individual gallantry seemed strangely out of place. A plume in a man's hat, for example, accomplished nothing except to make him a more conspicuous target. Nor did the rebel yell ring out on the banks of Wilson's Creek. There was little cheering on either side, for a cheer seemed as oddly out of place as a plume. The men went about their deadly business of firing and reloading and melting away in the grim silence broken by the rattling crash of musketry and the deeper roar of guns, with the screams of the injured sometimes piercing the din. Far from resembling panoplied war, it was more like reciprocal murder. In such a battle, the weight of numbers told. Sigel's surprise attack from the south became a rout almost as soon as he encountered resistance. His men broke, stampeded, and did not stop till they got back to Springfield, having abandoned their colors and all but one of their guns. To the north, Leone's men were wavering too. East of the creek, the regulars, lacking reinforcements, were blasted off the field. The main body west of the creek stood manfully to their work for a while, but presently the Confederates clustering thicker and thicker to their front, new regiments arriving after their success in dealing with other columns of attack. The Federals began to look at each other over their shoulders, apprehensive. Leone rode among them, calling for them to stand firm in the face of gathering resistance. As he sought thus to rally them, a bullet creased his scalp, a second struck his thigh, a third his ankle. His horse was shot and fell dead under him. Stunned, Leone limped slowly toward the rear, shaking his head. "I fear the day is lost," he said. Presently, though, recovering from the shock and depression, he secured another mount and rode again into the fight, at a place where the troops were about to give way. Swinging his hat, he called for them to follow him, and when they rallied he led them forward, near the point of deepest penetration. A bullet struck his heart and he went down. His men fled, shaken by the loss of their red-bearded leader. It was Manassas all over again. Once the Federal troops gave way, they did not stand upon the order of their going, but retreated pell-mell to Springfield and then to Rolla, leaving their fallen comrades on the field. Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa farm boys, lying dead in their new shoes, and the brave Leone, whose body McCulloch forwarded through the lines under a flag of truce, only to recapture it when the Unionists fell back from Springfield, abandoning it in its coffin in the courthouse. The fighting had been bloody, the severest since Waterloo, one participant called it. Within 4 hours, each side had suffered about 1,200 casualties. In one-third of the time, with less than one-third the number of troops involved, more than half as many men had fallen along Wilson's Creek as had fallen along Bull Run. Yet here, too, as after that battle 3 weeks before, on the banks of that other rural stream 800 miles away, one side was about as disorganized by victory as the other was by defeat. Though there was broad, open daylight for pursuit, the Confederates could not put into column to press the retreating Federals.